Off mobility and mindset. So we'll take it down to the mat, bringing ourselves to a comfortable seated position that can be cross-legged or that can be kneeling, whichever your preference. I'm going to start out in a nice easy pose, bringing sit bones to meet the mat, letting the crown of the head rise tall. Allow yourself to settle in, sinking into those sit bones where they meet the mat. Letting shoulders and knees soften towards the earth. Take a few breaths here. Finding comfort as I bring us into our first round of Yoga for Golfers. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Megan, and I will be our guide for this series. Tonight we're moving into mobility, so we'll be working into those joints, keeping them active and working to keep them moving through their full range of motion. With our joints, it is true, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we'll keep all of the joints active as well. We'll be moving through some beautiful breath work to help cultivate that presence that we need here in the yoga practice and on the golf course. So just keeping the mind on that breath as you bring yourself to a centered place here and now. Bringing the awareness to the inhales, noticing where they move into the body. The breath, a beautiful baseline to see where we are at. Now switching the awareness to the exhales and noticing how they flow out of the body. No need to judge or change or alter the breath in any way, just observing its flow. As we move more into our mindset work, we'll work to cultivate that neutral mindset, one that doesn't label or judge. No need to put things in certain boxes. Aiming to foster a perspective that brings us neutrality, non-attachment, so we can move forward through the flow practice, through life, through our game of golf with ease, being able to let go that last stroke that might have ended up in the bunker or the water, being able to let go of that breath as it releases out of the body, trusting that the inhales swirl back around like a solid chip, a hole-in-one maybe. We'll bring our awareness to the shoulders, bringing them through a few shoulder rolls. We'll draw them high up towards the ears and let them soften back down to earth. Taking your time, moving at your own pace. Maybe hands stay connected to the knees and the shoulders isolate their movement. Or maybe fingertips run over the tops of the thighs as the shoulders roll up. And they reset as the elbows and shoulders fall back down to earth. Whichever variation we've chosen, keeping that spine long and straight. Sit bones plug in, crown of head rises tall. Steady, even breaths. Aiming to keep the mind and body centered in the moment. This neutral perspective, we need to keep our attention on current circumstances. Just like the game of golf, we need to be ready for what is ahead of us, keeping our mind focused on the task at hand. We'll bring ourselves back to stillness, back to neutral, allowing a clearing breath to reset in through the nose and out through the mouth. Bringing ourselves into a seated twist, we'll reach the hands high above the head. Fingertips reach for the ceiling, anchoring through sit bones in the floor. Spending a few moments here, feeling into that side body, noticing where the front body and back body knit together. Awareness comes to the low ribs, let them soften towards the earth. Notice how this brings length through the armpits. Keep that length through the torso, through the armpits, as we twist towards the left side. And exhale, we'll fully exhale and twist towards that left side. And inhale, we'll let the arms fall where they're comfortable. Maybe our right hand finds the front body, maybe our left hand finds the back. Maybe the hand finds the knee or opposite hip for the bind. Taking what we need, listening into that body, taking what we need to nourish as we move into our first twist of practice. So being gentle and careful with ourselves, warming up as we move the spine into its rotation, aiming to find the twist through the thoracic spine, that's our mid-spine. Letting the breath gently massage the muscles in between the ribs, the intercostal muscles that run in opposite directions so they get a beautiful stretch as we twist in both directions, keeping balance through the body. Savor 2 more inhales and exhales here. Our next inhale winds us back to center with hands high. A clearing breath with hands reaching towards the ceiling, spreading fingers wide. In through the nose, out through the mouth, an audible sigh may be heard. And our next round of breath brings us to rotate to the opposite side again, bringing that twist through the mid-spine. We'll exhale towards that right side. Hands fall where they may. Keeping those options in mind from our first twist. We'll move into the second twist with the same regard as we did for the first one. So keeping that twist through the mid-spine, keeping knees, shoulders, low ribs soft. Breath steady. Maybe the gaze even comes back towards the right shoulder. Intentional breath. And an inhale, we'll bring ourselves back to center, reaching hands high. A cleansing breath here in through the nose, out through the mouth. Releasing the hands into the lap. Allowing the breath to return to neutral. Moving into the cervical spine, we'll bring ourselves through some neck rolls. So we'll allow the right ear to drop towards the right side. And we'll bring the chin to tuck towards the chest, and the left ear finds left shoulder. If the neck is feeling a little tender, we'll drop it back down towards the chest, over towards the right ear. And we'll continue with this half circle. But if it feels okay for the neck, we can create that full circle, moving clockwise up towards the sky and dropping the chin back towards the chest. Depending on the option we take, making sure that we find balance, we'll take 3 large circles clockwise. And once we find our chin tucking towards the chest, we'll bring it opposite counterclockwise 3 times as well. But if we've chosen that half circle, just continuing on our merry way. Aiming to create awareness through that back body, through the spine. The spine is utterly important in our game of golf. It creates that dynamic force of our golf swing. Beautiful, complex part of the body, housing our spinal cord, supporting all of the muscles and tendons that we need to move forward. So it's great to really treat it with the respect that it deserves. We'll bring it back to center and inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. We'll allow the hands to come by our side and we'll tilt ourselves back. We'll draw the front foot forward and the front foot back, resettling into that cross-legged position or changing it up if we chose that kneeling posture. Settling back in, noticing how the sit bones meet the mat, rising tall again, letting low ribs, shoulders, lower jaw soften. Beautiful. We'll bring the fingers together to interlace in front of the heart. We'll send the palms forward, reaching them out in front of us. Taking a few breaths here, just opening through the wrists. Awesome. Like we're scooping up some water, we'll send them under and bring them up over into the heart. And then we'll enter or unlock that interlaced feeling and we'll send the hands back directly out in front of us, allowing the shoulders to plug in. Letting fingers meet the palms. We'll flick the hands like there's water on them, just with bringing awareness to the fingers, to the palms, to the wrists, awakening the forearms. Being forceful, flicking that water, or you can imagine like laser beams or lightning bolts coming out them if you want something more to visualize. And we'll bring a pause to that and we'll bring fists to the hands and move the wrists in opposite directions like we're wringing out a wet towel. Gorgeous. We'll pause there and bring the hands back into the lap, letting the palms face up. Centering back into that breath. We'll draw everything towards midline, so bringing everything in towards the spine, becoming aware of your left and right side. Letting the palms slip back over will create a connection with the palms and the knees. Moving into a seated cat-cow, we'll begin the movement with the tailbone. So we'll let it tuck under and we'll send the shoulder blades to the back of the mat and letting the chin tuck. So drawing the navel towards the spine. An inhale will allow the tilt to move in the opposite direction, expanding the heart up to the top of the chest, and gaze can rise to the ceiling, bringing the exhale to its fullest inhalation. Exhale curves us back out, taking our time moving as fast or slow as we'd like, bringing those beautiful fluctuations to the spine, warming up the muscles that surround it. Hydrating the discs that run between the vertebrae. Gorgeous. We'll bring it back to center for a clearing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Making our way to our tabletop position, we'll bring our hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, finding a concrete position where all four limbs are grounded into the mat. Taking time to notice how the elbows meet the mat, or I mean, how the hands meet the mat so the elbows can face one another, plugging shoulders into their sockets, creating a straight spine, tops of the feet ground down into the mat, drawing navel towards the spine, hugging shoulder blades closer together behind the heart. Retract the head so it's in line with the rest of the spine. Notice where the body meets the mat and plug in. Find support from the limbs, making sure that we're rooting down evenly and we're not plugging too hard into right or left side, knees or hands. We want to be evenly rooted. Taking our time to create this equilibrium. No need to rush off in any particular direction. We know in our game of golf, sometimes if we try to rush or move too fast, this can end in devastating ways. Off in the rough, maybe the shot doesn't go as planned. And this is where our mindset comes in. We need to be flexible in the mind and the body, knowing where our force, our energy is best used and channeled. We can utilize and make use of our frustrations that we feel during the game, during life, by turning them into fuel, into motivation, being able to channel that force into maybe our yoga practice, maybe our next stroke. And we'll bring ourselves again into another variation of those cat-cow tilts that bring our spine through its full, beautiful range of motion. So an exhale, we'll tuck the chin in the crown of the head, sending the heart high. Exhale it all out. Inhale, we'll draw the tailbone high, dropping the heart, expanding the collarbones, gaze rises. Aiming to keep this movement through the spine, letting the tailbone guide the movement, seeing if we keep the head as the last thing to move. Moving as fast or slow, aiming to have that spine move with the rhythm of your breath. Gorgeous. We'll bring ourselves back to that neutral spine. A clearing breath in through the nose, up through the mouth. Exhale, we'll drop ourselves down onto forearms, replacing the heels of the hands with the elbows, keeping the spine straight and long, hips over knees. Find the space between the thumbs, let the eyes rest there, helping you keep your balance. We'll create a tripod by drawing the right leg to hip height, allowing the toe to tap down onto the mat, and inhale, it rises back high. Allowing the movement to come through the leg, isolating the right leg as we ground down through our tripod points. Keeping those eyes laser beam focused, like you have your eyes on the target. Keeping the eyes on the pin. Inhale, we'll pause at the top. Exhale, allow that right foot to glide over the left, finding the opposite side of the mat. Toes plug into either the mat or the floor beside it, keeping shoulders square to the hips. Maybe the gaze falls back towards the big toe, creating an arch through the right side body. We'll cinch left shoulder to left hip. Finding that neutral perspective, keeping the mind present, attention on the current circumstances. Inhale, we'll rise that foot back high, and we'll bring gaze back to that point between the thumbs, keeping the heel extended directly out of the hip, an isometric hold. Press down into the tripod points, draw shoulders together, extend through crown of the head and the heel. And exhale, we'll bring that knee back into the mat. We'll sink back, take child's pose. Letting hips sink towards heels, keeping knees drawn together. Let the forehead meet the mat, hands extend in front of you. Letting the breath move in all directions. Expanding the front body, the back body, the side body. Create length through the spine by anchoring through hips and forehead. Softness finds the tops of shoulders. Perhaps the forehead rocks back and forth, massaging the point between the eyes. And if we've brought movement to the head, bringing it back to stillness for a couple of breaths. Press into the hands, creating suction cups with them. And inhale, we'll draw ourselves forward back to that tabletop position. Take a cycle of cat-cow, rinsing it out, resetting the spine. Inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, neutral. Exhale, we'll find forearms. Inhale, we'll rise that left leg, making sure that we have a strong tripod point. Exhale, we'll lower that leg. Inhale, we'll rise. Creating a strong core, drawing belly button towards the spine. Anchoring down through the forearms and the shin and the top of the foot. Extending through the crown of the head. Keep length through the body. Marvelous. We'll pause at the top and then we'll send those toes over to the right side, finding the opposite side of the mat. We'll cinch through the right side body, expand through the left. Maybe gaze finds big toe. Sending breath to that left side body, expanding that arch. And we'll bring that gaze back to that point between the hands. Foot rises back for that isometric hold, extending, tucking toes towards the shin, extending through the heel and crown of head. Plug into those tripod points. Find the breath, find that neutral perspective, and embrace the sensations created within the body and the mind. The beautiful practice of yoga and the game of golf have a lot in common. Like the fact that we have to keep ourselves present. Exhale, we'll bend through the knees, sending ourselves back to that child's pose. We have to ensure that we keep ourselves in that present moment to make sure we can see as clearly as possible what is going on. Being aware of how our body moves, being aware of our mindset and how it influences our body's movement as well. So, aiming to anchor in to knowing the self, being aware of our own patterns, and just like the practice of the stroke, the practice of yoga, it happens through repetition. An inhale, we'll draw ourselves into a miniature flow. So, repeating this mini flow, we'll draw up towards that cow pose, drawing tailbone and gaze high. Exhale, we'll tuck chin, sending ourselves to child's pose. Inhale, cow. Exhale, child. Aiming to keep the shoulders in place, keeping those eyes facing one another as we go down the eyes of the elbows. The eyes themselves can draw the same line as the body forward and back. So as we tuck it down, we can send the gaze to the knees. And as we draw forward, the gaze can rise up towards the ceiling or maybe that third eye point. If the gaze doesn't like looking at the knees, we can bring it to that tip of the nose as we draw down instead. It is through gentle repetition that the body learns, as we know, muscle memory. And that's why we would like to go slow through these yoga movements. We can create the awareness here on the mat so we can jump into our game with not as much work. Gorgeous. We'll complete one more and then we'll bring ourselves back to that neutral tabletop. So letting ourselves find a steady foundation, we'll make our way into our first downward dog or class. So we'll tuck the toes, we'll work the legs towards straight as the hips rise towards the ceiling. Pressing the stomach towards the thighs, we'll drop the heart towards the ground, keeping length through the spine. Maybe movement is found pedaling out the feet or shaking the hips, or maybe we stay in stillness depending on our needs and what we need to nourish our body and mind today. Inhale, we'll bring it back to stillness. We'll allow the gaze to come to the hands and the feet make their way to the top of the mat. Taking as many steps or hops as we need. And inhale, we'll lift ourselves halfway, bringing a straight spine. Exhale, we'll sink it back down to the ground, forward fold. Inhale, we'll root to rise, bringing the hands high towards the sky. A full body stretch. Exhale, releasing the hands down by your side. A clearing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Letting yourself find a strong Tadasana. We'll anchor in through the feet, spreading toes wide. Maybe we'll shift from side to side, just bringing that awareness into the body. Seeing if you can feel all four sides of the feet meet the mat. Finding stability through the hips, lightness through the tops of the knees. Hands reach down towards the earth, softness through the shoulders. Find breath. Moving into some shoulder circles. We'll bring the arms to a T, reaching the hands out. Maybe you even bring yourself to the length of your mat so you can bring your full arm span out. But if we do have to move, just finding that recentering feeling, pressing into the corners of the mat, letting yourself rest into the support from the skeleton, creating that T shape. We'll start off slowly creating small circles so we can just bring awareness to the arms and how the shoulder carriage is feeling today. Keeping that breath steady and even. Seeing if we notice if our arms are moving at the same pace and trying to keep them that way, keep them at the same size. We can start making those circles a little bigger. Letting the low ribs stay soft as we do so. Letting the face stay soft. No need to have that energy leak out by tensing muscles that are not needed. Bringing even larger circles to the arms. Letting them go through their full range of motion. Up and over. And we'll take one more circle and then we'll swing the hands behind us to interlace the hands. And drawing the fingers down towards the earth, heart high towards the sky. Find breath. Keeping softness through the knees or hinge through the hip, finding a forward fold. Maybe the knees take a bend so the tummy meets the thighs, or we can find just a soft bend so we're not walking them. Letting hands rise up as high as they can to the ceiling. Maybe they're a little bit closer to the back, maybe they're high towards the ceiling, depending on the range of motion that we already have within the shoulders themselves. Inhale, we'll draw ourselves back up to a standing position, releasing the hands by our side and clearing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Inhale, rises hands high. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, we'll float forward, plank pose. Exhale, we'll lower all the way to the belly, joining knees to the mat, hugging elbows in, bringing the chest, untucking, letting hips run down and the tops of the feet, hands directly underneath shoulders, bringing yourselves to a cobra pose. And inhale, inflates us high, low ribs may find the mat, keeping the shoulders drawn close together behind the heart. Exhale, we'll release back down. But not going too far. We'll bring ourselves back into that cobra, flowing as many times as you need or as fast as slow as you need. Letting the inhale draw you high. Exhale sinks you back down. Aiming to keep that lower body soft, letting the pelvic floor begin the movement. So aiming to draw up with the mula bandha, the diaphragm, utilizing those back muscles to pull you up. I like to pretend there's a little string behind my heart, behind me, just pulling me up like little marionette strings. Marvelous. We'll bring ourselves into a comfortable resting position, second hand over hand, letting the forehead rest on it. We'll draw feet far apart from one another. Letting the forehead sink down, letting the hips ground down, letting elbows relax into the mat. Keep the length in the back of the neck. Allow the breath to move deep into the belly, letting a soft surface meet the hard floor beneath you. Drawing feet back to hip width apart. Carefully lifting the head, drawing hands back underneath of the shoulders. Push yourself back through tabletop to downward facing dog. Heels and heart reach towards the earth. Melting the belly towards the thighs, keeping length through the back body. Letting the eyes find a place to rest. A clearing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Gaze finds the hands and feet make their way to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, root to rise. Reverse one dive, fingers find the sky. Moving into a T flow. And exhale, we'll open our arms to their wingspan as we twist towards the right side. Inhale, we'll bring ourselves through center. Off to the left. So moving in opposition. Opening. Expanding. On the exhale, letting those twists expel the air. And an inhale expands us back to center. I find this one is beautiful for creating that awareness through the torso. For myself, I find keeping my shoulders and my hips connected in my rotation of my swing is something that I need to work on. And this is beautiful awareness for noticing where my hips and my shoulders are in space. So trying to keep those hips rooted and keeping that spin through the mid part of our spine. So we don't want to spin it like our golf swing. We want to keep those hips facing forward as far as that can be challenging. So an inhale, we'll bring it back to center, hands high, clearing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Exhale, release the hands back down by your side. Maybe you take a few shoulder rolls or letting the feet stomp out. We'll bring ourselves into our cool down portion of us. So we'll drop it down to our back bodies, letting the hips meet the mat, letting the palms of the feet meet the mat, letting the shoulders and the space behind your eyes. So letting the hips or the heels move towards the hips, letting the backs of the heels come directly underneath. Maybe even fingertips can reach the back of the heels and give them a little tickle. Hands rest by your side. Take a moment to get acclimatized to your new plane. Observing the breath, observing the body's first impressions, letting the eyes settle into their sockets, letting hips root evenly down, letting the tops of the shoulders melt towards the mat beneath them. Inhale, we'll draw our right leg in, and an exhale, we'll create a figure four shape with the legs, letting the right shin ground below the left knee. Maybe we stay here, foot grounded into the mat, or maybe the left knee rises towards the body and fingers swing through the opening the leg has created to meet the other one on the back of the thigh underneath the knee, or on top of the shin if there's space. Just ensuring that we keep the back happy, keeping the space between the lower back and the neck. Ensuring that we keep hips square. We can activate this posture by drawing the left knee even closer to us and pushing the right knee away. These supine pigeons are a beautiful way to relax the hamstrings and the glutes after a round. Giving the piriformis the love it needs, one of the muscles that connects our legs to our body. An MVP, in my opinion. Exhale, we'll release our grip and return both feet to the mat. A clearing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Letting the body reset before heading into round two. Inhale. The left leg draws in, recreating that figure four shape, finding your sweet spot, whether that's foot grounded or fingers interlaced on thigh or shin. Keeping the spine happy, ensuring the space between the mat and the back is still there. There should be no tension in the lower jaw. Anchoring in space behind the eyes. Keep the length through the back of the neck. Exhale, release your grip, return both feet to the mat. Hands rest by your side. A clearing breath moves in through the nose and out through the mouth. Moving into a supine twist, we can bring the arms to a T or to cactus arms, your preference, or if there's not enough space there. We'll take a gentle press to the feet. We'll steer the knees towards the left side, aiming to stack knee over knee and hip over hip. Keeping that twist again through the mid spine. If it feels okay for the neck, letting the gaze fall towards the opposite direction, towards the right. No worries if there's some extra space between you and the ground. You can bring a block there to bring the ground closer to you, or you can allow yourself to hang out, allowing gravity to assist the body. Finding breath, allowing it to bring you here and now.
Noticing how it feels as it moves in and out of the body. No texture or quality, wrong or right. It just is as it is. And that is the attitude we aim to cultivate in the yoga practice and in the game of golf. Each moment, each movement, each stroke is what it is. We are not only our negatives and positives, we are the sum of the whole. And it is practice that brings us into the game, into the mindset. It is practice that keeps our joints mobile. It is daily use. At times, it feels smooth, effortless. At other times, rough and choppy. Each part just as important as the last. Creating perspective, gaining knowledge, creating muscle memory, all part of mastering a craft, an art, a sport. If we've added any props, removing it, bringing ourselves back to center. Heavy feet return, knees sky high, hips and shoulders center. A clearing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, clear it all away. And in our own time, moving into side two, we'll steer the knees and hips towards the right, stacking the only hip over hip, allowing the gaze to come to that left side. Again, if we need a little extra assistance bringing the floor to us, we can do so. Part of creating that neutral mindset, non-attachment, is releasing what we have seen before. So coming into our next shot, our next asana, our posture, like moving into side two of a twist, we have to give every shot its own chance. We can't paint it with the same brush. We can't move with the same stroke every time. And this is where we have to utilize the perspective of neutrality, knowing that we cannot always react or respond in the same way as we once did. It's learning to truly see, truly feel into what we need to nourish the body, what we need to do to make our next strategic move to keep those strokes down. And when we move into that mindset, we see that we cannot waste our time or energy on focusing on what once was. That poor, round, or maybe that excellent shot, that long drive, or that full deep breath. Yes, they've all passed, come and gone, but we must learn to let go, just like the exhale leaving the body, to make room for what is to come. And there is no space if we paint that space with past projections or future comings. And we'll bring ourselves back to center with heavy feet. And that is where we like to go with our mindset as well, grounding and centering ourselves. So we'll let the body relax into the earth. Extending the feet, we'll bring ourselves into our final posture, Ashtavasana. So perhaps if we like, we can grab any layers or props, bringing a blanket to cover ourselves up, or a pillow underneath of the knees. But if you like, you can take more traditional style and just allow the feet to draw to either corner of the mat. Hands rest by your side, shoulders soften down, creating space for the heart, creating space for the inhales. We'll take one more clearing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Washing the slate clean, arriving without expectation, letting the experience unfurl in front of you. Eyes can rest back into their sockets, and the eyelids can come to a complete close, gently meeting each other. Shavasana, our ending practice pose, the one that offers us up stillness, reflection, and introspection. Oftentimes, our mind can get fixated on things outside of the current moment. This is the perfect posture to practice that mindset, the neutral observer, not meaning that there won't be thoughts or emotions or feelings. We can just put some space in between them and ourself. Letting them float by like clouds in the sky. Knowing that we can bring ourselves into this grounded and centered state at any time. Moving into the body and out of our thinking mind. Noticing the way that the back body meets the mat. Feeling all of the places that meet the mat and letting the body relax into them. Each exhale, softening into these points, into deeper relaxation and peace. Every inhale expanding into the space above you. Letting the
Now you reach high towards the sky. Heart rises to the top of the complete rib cage, knowing that you're grounded and centered so you can expand and contract with ease. Finding your own internal rhythm and timing, moving with the beat of your breath. Stillness washes over the body as you explore inner space. This inner space is utterly important to the game of golf. Our inner world becomes our outer world. And when we can keep the mind centered, present, neutral, we are capable of achieving our ultimate goals. Knowing that we can stay in Shavasana as long as we may need. But when we're ready, we can bring clean breath to the body in through the nose and out through the mouth. And we can reawaken, bringing movement to the feet, the hands, maybe the head washes from side to side. We can bend through the knees and draw ourselves into a recovery position onto either side, letting the elbows support the head, staying here as long as we may need. When we're ready, making our way up to a seat, bringing yourself back to that full awakened presence, consciousness. Thank you for joining me for the first class in the series, Yoga for Golfers, Mindful Movement and Meditation for the Game of Golf.